Hello and welcome to Fat Man slash Black Man slash Any Man in a Storm Beyond. My name is Marc Bernardin. You will note that my esteemed co-host Kevin Smith is not at present. Instead, we swapped out a Fat Man for a BAMF Man.
I'm here. Here we are.
We're doing it.
I got my own box finally.
Got your own fun. You don't have to smoke in and smoke out. You're here. You just parked here, which is lovely. Welcome aboard. It has been a minute, I think, as the kids say, since we've rolled a Fat Man Beyond. I think it's been, God, 3 weeks maybe. End of October was the last time we were here.
Some things have happened since then in the world.
They have, apparently the McRib is coming back, which I'm always a fan of. I like my pork products as processed as humanly possible. I think some movies have come out. I think, there's been a couple of changes in leadership in places. The Star Wars universe now has a new steward to a certain degree. We'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about the changes in the world of the culture that pops, as Kevin likes to say. But first, how you doing, man? What's happening in your world?
Things are good. I want to say when we start off, I have a Stream Deck here, which is like for the uninitiated, it's like a little screen that has a lot of buttons on it, and you can tell each button is like a little screen, and you can say what it is. And so I have one today that is Marc Solo. Like, so in my head, it's Marc Solo, like your solo shot. But if I step back, it's Marc Solo, like the captain of the Millennium Falcon.
In my head, it's a different thing too. And I like this picture. I mean, me and my space dog are gonna run around the galaxy, getting into imbroglios and shenanigans. Yeah, man, it's always nice when you're like, hey, I figured out a new way to do the show. It's like it's gonna be faster and sound better and look better. And I never experience any of it. I just take your word.
Yeah, only on the other side. Less trouble on the YouTube for the YouTube audience, and more convenient for me. So
everybody fucking wins, man. Everybody fucking wins.
I have an exciting thing to share at the risk of burying the lead, and probably also saying this out loud to the public will upset my wife, but I have another baby coming in March. Ooh. So that's exciting.
You mother.
Yeah, for real. This time for real. Last time it wasn't. Last time she wasn't the mother. Now.
Yes. Now I know where I'm going. I know the road to paradise. So March. Amazing.
March. Dude. Yeah, the same day our lease ends at Scum Villainy Cantina.
Oh.
I will be having another baby girl. So
you're going to be outnumbered in your own home.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It'll be really nice until like 10 years, 12 years from now, when they're all on cycle together and it's me, and it'll be you, me, and Kevin running off to the cantina to talk nerd shit to give me an estrogen break.
Indeed. Lots of questions of like, why is Daddy in the bathroom for so long? he just needs a minute.
Yeah.
It's his fortress of solitude now.
Any advice from someone who has two?
I think the advice that I would give is to realize that it's now man-to-man coverage. It's not zone anymore. Oh. Like everybody's on now. It's easier when it's like 2-on-1. You can kind of like bracket a kid and make sure that they're kind of doing what they want to do. And you're like, all right, we've got all hands and all eyes on. If you're solo parenting ever, there's probably going to be one kid out of sight. And so it becomes like, where's that one? We got to put a bell on that one. That one's feeling yeah, I mean, there's nothing like, I think the difference between one and two is way less than zero and one. Like
Okay.
your life has already adjusted to having a child. You've put away all of the things that they can't be around. Like you've softened every edge, you've sealed every outlet, you've done all of that stuff. The mental shift between not parent and parent is already made. Now it's just resource management. It's just like how much time do we have in a day? Who needs what? Everyone needs something. But I think that it's the once they both hit the age where you can start having conversations with both of them, then that's when it starts to be joyous and wonderful.
Oh.
Like now you're still in like, is that chocolate or poop on my fingernails?
I
Like,
did
oh,
that. Uh, Jocelyn just had her fourth birthday, and uh, she is pretty much like 99% of the time good going to the bathroom on her own.
mm,
Um, but we had a little accident the other day. I did get some poop on my hand, and I looked at it because it's been a while, and I go, "Oh
mm.
my god, come March, this is going to be my life for the
I'm right
next
back in it.
4 years." Like I just got out of it, and they brought me back in. So
Yeah. You're enlisting in another tour in the shit,
yeah,
literally.
yeah, I signed up again, going back.
No, I'm super happy for you though. Like this, my favorite version of parenting was like between 3 and 11. When it's like, hey, all right, I don't have to wipe as much shit as I used to. I don't have to like, I don't need strollers that much anymore. Like they're mostly ambulatory. Um, they have thoughts, but they still rely on you for everything.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
it's
you're still
fun.
you're deeply needed in a way that once they cross over into like 12 and 13, you now just become a burden.
Yeah, yeah. I for her birthday, and this is kind of relevant to Fat Man Beyond, Dad Man Beyond, I guess, right now. Uh, Jen is working, and she was just like, I cannot plan her fourth birthday. It is now on you, Dad, to do the thing. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know. What am I going to do? What do you do? Like, I've got to invite, she's got 15 other kids in her class. And then
Mm.
her friends have older brothers and little sisters and the whole thing. So I was like, oh my God, we're going to have 50 people at the house. What do I do? So, one of the benefits of owning a nerd bar is I know nerds. And I called up my friend Brandon, who has a company called Character Masters, and
Ooh.
got Spider Man and Miles Morales and Spider Gwen to show up for her fourth birthday, which was a huge hit. They did superhero training, uh, which was really fun for all the kids. But my proud dad moment was that, like, 3 days ago, she was like, her birthday was last Sunday. She was like, Mom, I got to write a thank you note to the Spidey team. And she went in and wrote, Dear Ghost Spider, thanks for drawing the flower on my arm. Dear Spidey, thanks for holding me upside down and letting my dad take a picture. And so she finished a thank you note, and then she said, "We got to do another note, Mom." And I was like, Jen was like, "What are we doing?" And she was like, "I want to invite the Spidey team to Thanksgiving at our house if they're not too busy fighting bad guys." And I was like,
You
I won
win.
fourth grade birthday party.
You won fourth grade birthday party. You won raising a kid who thanks people and understands that they might be busy doing things, but could also maybe need a warm meal.
Yeah. So I think Brandon, I sent him the thank you note, and he was like, "Oh my God." He's like, FaceTime me the day before Thanksgiving, and I'll put on the suit, and I'll say thanks, but we're off fighting, Green Goblin with the Hulk or something. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. The problem is going to be when she continues to believe that you have Spider-Man on speed dial.
yeah.
It's the new Santa Claus problem, which is like thinks I know fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Anyway,
like I hit something on the roof. Can you call Spider-Man to help him come and get it down?
so yeah, my kid loves Spider Man. Loves it. And again, that, like, she also loves being a princess, but she's the princess, and then like her friend is Ghost Spider. So like, I feel like I'm doing the nerd dad thing. Okay,
Yeah. I mean,
you
hell,
know.
dude, it's the gender agnostic version of like you could be any of these things.
Yeah.
Like, and there's nothing wrong with being any of these things. You want to be a princess, be a princess. You want to be a fucking spider person, be a spider person. You want
She
to punch
wants to,
crime in it? Go for it.
she wants to name the new baby either Toad from Mario
Mhm.
or Ghost Spider Gwen. Uh, so the hard thing is going to be when she realizes that neither of those are going to be the new little sister name.
Like, what the fuck is a Millicent? Like, I didn't want that. I wanted something like Voltron. Could the baby be named?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Although I did know a person who did like they had a girl and a boy, and then they were having a third kid. And the soon to be middle child was like aggressively upset at suddenly there being another person to steal their shine. And so they were like, all right, you can name the new baby. And they stuck to their guns. Thankfully, they chose the name Summer because the baby
Oh.
was born in summer. But I was like, if she had come back with like zebra head, would you have been okay with that? Like, we don't have to know the answer to that question.
Oh my gosh.
Ugh,
Um, hey,
yo,
I thought I saw a post you made the other day about barbecue and your doctor.
yes, indeed. I every 6 months or so, I go to the endocrinologist because as a person who has diabetes, going to the doctor on a regular basis to make sure that all the levels are strong and are good and make sure that my progress is on track. He was like, "Yeah, man, your A1C when you first showed up here, your A1C, which if you don't know, is how one measures the amount of glucose in the blood. The higher it is, the worse your kidneys are at at creating insulin, and therefore the higher your sugar levels in your blood are." And I showed up at like 7.4. Like I showed up in like that's not good. Um, I then got down to like 6.8, then like 6.2, and then most recently it was 5.7, which is
Which
now technically not
not
diabetic.
yeah.
Like diabetes begins like pre-diabetic is like 5.9 to 6. Diabetes is like 6.2 and 6.4 and up. And he's like, "Oh, you're still diabetic. Don't get that wrong. Don't get it twisted. Like you were still all of the things are true, but you're controlling your health way better than you had been." Um, he's like, once you're diabetic, you're always diabetic. You can't back out of it. But, if you continue on this path and you continue to take care of yourself, you can start to wean off of some of the medications you've been on that help to keep your
Mm.
cholesterol and your blood sugars in check. And I was like, yeah, but couldn't I stay on the medication and eat more sugar? Can I have deep fried foods and fats again? He's like, Mark, you're taking the wrong lesson from it. Or am I? Am I
Yeah.
trusting modern science to give me the life that I want?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Well,
felt I
that's
felt like
exciting.
I felt like a big boy. Because I am also a person who, not that I ignore doctor's orders, but I've also generally not needed doctors very much in my life. Like I've never broken a limb. I've never had a surgery really that wasn't dental. Um, so I guess I have the early 20 somethings view of immortality and that I'm invulnerable. Nothing's managed to break me yet. So why do I need to do the things until diabetes showed up? Um, so following a doctor's directions um, was like a turning point in my own
Yeah.
personal responsibility for myself because
It's
I
like,
don't ever.
when did you become an adult? When you bought your first house? No. When you
No.
had your first kid? No. Second kid? No. When you got your first job, car? No, no. When? When I had to start following doctor's orders at 50.
Yeah, when he
That's
gave
when I
me
knew.
6 pills a night to take and I took them all. This is when I knew that I was a grown ass person.
Like that's when you become an adult.
Yes, now you're a man, my son. Go off and win your kingdom. He's like, can I bring the metformin with me? I'm going to need the metformin. Otherwise, it's going to be a very sad kingdom. But yeah, like welcome aboard, Fat Man listeners. This has become very much like, Dadsville, USA slash Oldsville, USA. Like, yeah, man, remember
You know what would help with that? Help
what?
get your get you more in tune with what's going on with your body.
Am I sensing a segue? Was that the most graceful pivot to an ad that I've ever seen? It might be. Usually they're clunky ass, like hard left turns that leave the payload swinging out over the freeway. But no, you steered us into our first fucking sponsor for the night, the good folks at Lumen. You've heard us talk about Lumen, right? What is Lumen? Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know that if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. So all you got to do is breathe into your lumen first thing in the morning. The thing is, it's about the size of, I don't know, a kazoo if you're also an old person. If not, it's probably about as big as this thing, which I don't know, let's call it a Banaka tube. Um, you breathe in it first thing in the morning. Um, you'll know what's going on with your metabolism. Then Lumen will give you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. And you can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. I tried out a Lumen once, and I think it told me that I was dead. Um, I could not keep because it's all about your breath, and you got to keep a little dot inside of a little circle. And my lungs were like, not having it today, homie. Um, but JC, you've luminized in the past. You have feelings about the lumen.
I did. Now, before we even talk about the health benefits of it, it's pretty ergonomic. Like I used to keep it in my pocket, and I would use it like 5 times a day because I'm like a data hound. Um, I like love the data about like what's going on. Is now a good time to eat sugar? Right? Because that's my quest also.
Of course.
Uh, and uh, and it was very easy to use and keep in my pocket. The only issue is I would walk like to the bar and be like, oh, I want marshmallows because we have marshmallows behind the bar, and I'd be like, I should blow the lumen beforehand. And I would do it, and it would be like, it seems like you've been walking and might be out of breath. Wait 3 minutes to blow in it. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. And it'll tell you like, this is what you should eat today, or that's what you should, it looks like you're doing this, or hey, you woke up like this. Did you sleep okay last night? And the more you use it, the more it gets to know you and give you better recommendations and things.
Which
And
is
I know Will Wilkins has had a ton of success with it, losing weight and getting healthy, getting in shape.
Will Wilkins, Dilfman himself, has 100% relied on Lumen for guidance in his metabolic health. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, you should go to lumen.me/fatman to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/fatman for 15% off your purchase. So thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. And thank you for helping so many of us on the path to proper metabolic health. So yes, thank you. Go get yourself a Lumen, boys and girls. And he's, she's, theys, and thems.
All right.
Where should we go first?
I got another good segue. I'm just lined them up today. I spent the last week.
Ooh, at a hoodie factory?
Yeah, in China at a hoodie factory, investigating. No, I was up at Skywalker Ranch for 3 days last week, end of last
Ooh,
week,
for
working working on I'm always Kevin's talked about that Logic was making a movie, I think.
right.
So we were up there working on that movie. And it was awesome. If you all haven't been to Skywalker Ranch, I recommend going.
Was that your first time to the ranch?
No, I've been there like 10 times. But it
Hmm.
was the first time I was up there working.
Ooh.
And I stayed at the hotel there, the inn at the ranch. I got
Mm.
up at like 6:20 in the morning, and it was like one of those foggy Northern California days, and the ranch like sits in this valley, and so there was fog everywhere and like big fat wild turkeys everywhere that are about to be on everybody's plate this Thursday. And I went out for a 4 mile walk and I just took pictures, and it was like quiet. It was it was wonderful. And
That's
then
great.
I watched, for the 6 people who are watching this who follow me on Instagram, I in 2005 was out at the ranch. I got to see Revenge of the Sith after winning an MTV contest. Um, and I saw Revenge of the Sith 3 weeks early in the Stag Theater there. And even though I've been to the ranch a whole bunch, I've never been back to the Stag Theater. And I got to
Mm.
go back to the Stag Theater. We watched the movie we've all been working on, and my name came up in the credits on it after 20 years. And I had a little moment where I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like when I was first here, I was but the learner, now I am the master, or the circle is now complete, or any of those Star Wars references that you can connect to that. So it was pretty cool. It was a pretty big like career checkbox for me, getting to go work on something there.
That's astounding. That's astounding. Yeah, and it is a magical place. It is my memories of the ranch are wonderful if colored with a little bit of bittersweetness. In that the last time that I was there, I went up for my 10th wedding anniversary with my wife. That would have been weird if it wasn't with my wife. Um, and and so I called in some favors, and we like got a sort of personalized tour of the ranch and the Black Rock facility and the Presidio, and like had lunch there, and
Big
like it
Rock,
was
not Black Rock.
sorry, Big
Black
Rock,
Rock's something very different.
very different, Big Rock. Um, and it was great. It was fantastic. It was everything that a nerd wishes that a trip to Skywalker would be, except for like stumbling into George as he's working on episode 9 or something. Um, Everything shy of that is what it was. And then on the ride from San Francisco down to Los Angeles the very next day, I got laid off from Entertainment Weekly, um, which, at the time was an apocalyptic event in a person's life. It was the first time I'd ever been laid off by someplace. It's the first time, I found myself without a job since I was like 19 years old. Um, one questions their sense of worth and their sense of value and all of those things. It ended up being the best thing that ever could have happened to me, but there's no way I could have seen it then. So I'm like having this weird collusion of like riding high after visiting the Mecca for nerds and then like living in the crater of a career that is smoking on the rim. um, all of that said, I'd go back there in a heartbeat, even if it meant I'd have to lose a job to do so. That's the price of me going to the ranch. Like I'll find a shitty job and then lose that one.
you're like Papa John's. This is Mark,
Yeah.
and
Listen,
then
man.
you. Not saying that Papa John's is a shitty job. Just saying that you go, you get that job. You're okay. You're okay with surrendering it for a trip to Skywalker.
Totally. I will happily be like a seasonal employee at Kmart if it means that I get fired in 2 weeks because I get to go to the ranch. Um, but that's awesome, dude. I've never worked there. I've been in the Stag theaters similarly to watch a thing, but I've never the hopes and dreams of getting to mix a thing or do anything at the ranch um seem phenomenal.
I mean, you've got a feature film coming up.
I do,
You know.
but it seems as if the ranch is not in the cards because I don't know a guy at the ranch should be like, yeah, man, I can sneak in the back door for a couple days. Don't worry about us. And I don't have logic money. So when he comes, we'll call in some favors for someplace a bit closer to home, but maybe for the third one, the one after the next one.
I
We'll
mean,
have somebody.
the goal though. You got the goal. You checked the director box. Now the next is the director at the ranch box.
Indeed, indeed. That's what they never tell you is that, having a dream come true does not actually cauterize the wound. Instead, it just fertilizes the ground. You're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
now all these other dreams that have to come true. I gotta do fucking ILM has to do some effects. I gotta go mix it ranch. I gotta go have a premiere at the Chinese where they shut down the street. You know, I gotta get Barack Obama's invite to come screen it at his house in front of him and Michelle, and then have them adopt me, and then I can become an Obama kid. Wouldn't that be great?
And you'd have a deal with Netflix.
And I'd have a deal with Netflix. So that's the new dream is to become the third Obama child.
You know who is going to be mixing up at the ranch?
Who that now?
Simon Kinberg.
He will indeed. He will indeed. We'll put a little button in that first. We'll get to
Okay.
some new little bit. I have seen some things in the
Oh
world.
yeah.
I've experienced some content, as the kids call it, and as people my age hate to refer to it as. But I will go in order of recency that I've seen such things. This morning, I went to go see Gladiator 2, the long-awaited sequel to Gladiator. I guess you could have said this is Gladiators in the grand design of like aliens, Gladiators. Um, I will say this. I won't spoil anything other than to say, A, Denzel Washington is having more fun than almost anybody I've seen in a movie in a long time. He is relishing every minute he's on screen. He's making choices that may or may not make sense for ancient Rome, but it kind of also doesn't matter. He's not even pretending to do an accent, um, which, if you've seen Ridley Scott movies before, you'll understand that he could give a fuck if, like, Sigourney Weaver and John Turturro are playing Egyptians who sound like they're from the Upper West Side and Brooklyn, respectively, and he's not asking anybody to do any dialect work. Um, and so Denzel Washington from, the Bronx is apparently, a gladiator trainer and keeper in ancient Rome, and it doesn't matter at all. The other thing I will say is that it is somehow both a sequel and a remake of Gladiator, in that, yes, the story does pick up in certain ways after the events of the Russell Crowe Gladiator film, um, but many of the beats are similar. The trailer will tell you many of those beats. Um, and so I don't think I'm spoiling very much to say it's a movie about a soldier who becomes a slave, becomes a gladiator, who at some point will going to fight so that he can earn his freedom. There is somebody who is in charge of training and fielding and paying for gladiators. There are Roman emperors who are completely just debauched in every number of ways. There's, lots of battles and blood in the Colosseum, which is rendered with no expense was spared in bringing you back into the Flavian Amphitheater, which I think is the official name for the Roman Colosseum. Um, it's always something to see. Ridley Scott movies are always a thing to see, um, but everyone's mileage will vary as to how much sort of indulgence they're going to wish to spend in Gladiator 2 world.
Did you like the first one when it came out
I
25 years
loved it
ago?
when it came out. Even though I do understand that, in the same way that, like, there was a script for it, I'm sure, just like there was a script for Casablanca, but much of it was made up kind of on the day. It was always a bit of a spit and polish of like, all right, scenes are coming off of the word processor and being flown to set by doves so they can do what they. All of that said, I think that there is, Russell Crowe is as good as he'd ever been in the first Gladiator. Revenge as plot driver is always effective and buys you a lot of leeway with an audience. Um, and Ridley Scott does epic like few people do epic. And Hans Zimmer's score, carries the weight that the rest of the movie might not. Um, and so lots of those things are returned here. Of course, spoiler alert for now a 20-year-old movie. Um, Maximus Decimus Meridius, the character played by Russell Crowe, died at the end of the first movie. So he it's not like there's old fat Russell Crowe showing up as the out of weight gladiator returning to the ring.
Can I anybody who doesn't want to be spoiled earmuff this now?
Mm,
Uh, can I ask a question about it that'll get me to the theater if it's yes?
yes,
Do the toys show back up? The figures?
the figures do not. I'm sorry.
That could have
The
been it. I mean, I guess he was buried with them or whatever, but
Yeah, well, I think if I remember correctly, Jaimon Hunsu's character inherits those figures. It's the
oh,
bury these back in Spain or whatever it was. I'm a Spaniard, take these with you. And I think you see him kind of walk off into the distance.
okay.
Um, presumably the holder of the toys. They do not make an appearance. His armor does. There's this whole
Hmm.
like makeshift shrine for Maximus in the belly of the arena, and so you see the one with the two horses on it. And you see his sword. His name is carved into the stone on the wall. There's a whole like what we do in life echoes in eternity, like
Hmm.
written like in holy scripture above this kind of avatar altar to the greatest gladiator that ever didn't really live, Maximus. Um, like, listen, it's you know exactly what you're going to get going into it, and if you like that thing, you'll like this movie. It's probably too long. There's probably 4 or 5 subplots that don't really pay off. Um, but when it engages with the movie it kind of wants to be, and when fucking uh, Denzel Washington just gets to kind of swan in flowing robes through every scene. It is 100% worth the price of admission. Um, See it in IMAX if you can. It feels like that kind of movie. If you have seen any footage or images from the premiere in Los Angeles, they transformed the TCL Chinese Theater out exterior into the Roman Colosseum.
Ooh.
So they've kind of changed the facade to look like it's the Colosseum, which in and of itself is kind of awesome. If you're in LA and just want to go and see a thing, that's a good thing to go see. Um, they, as I said, they spared no expense. Granted, not as much as no expense as what they seem to be spending to promote Wicked, which, I had somebody wonder what the promotional budget was for that. I'm like, budget implies limit. Budget implies that
Yeah.
there's a number. They had no budget. They just got to spend money, and they're spending it on everything in every way possible.
So the kids are saying, I think Will Wilkins was saying, are you going to get glicked this weekend? You saw Gladiator. Are you going to hit the icked part of it?
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think that Wicked is going to do incredibly well. Gladiator will have longer legs probably, and they will both get decimated by Moana 2 when it shows up in like 2 weeks.
Moana 2, that has been again taking it back to the dad thing. Moana 2 is been on the calendar for like 6 months. So
Yeah, you know, I don't know if it's any good or not. Nobody does. I don't know how many. I don't know if they're screening it for people yet. I do know that it used to be a TV series
mm-hmm.
that has been, kind of refashioned into a movie because they realized we can get people to pay for a movie and we're not going to get them to pay for a Disney Plus show. And I know that Lin-Manuel Miranda did not return to do the music, but everybody else, everybody sort of the top level of talent did return. Like you still get The Rock back, you still get Auli'i Carvalho. I'm 100% mispronouncing her name, and I'm doing it mostly from memory, so forgive me. Um, but yes, the actors who played Maui and Moana have returned, and yeah, the trailers look like they've been designed to do exactly what you need them to do, which is bring an audience back into the theater to go for one last ride.
Are you have you watched Moana? Are you a
I have
Moana
seen it.
fan?
I am a Moana fan. I remember I saw it in the theater when it came out. I've seen it, I think we bought the DVD at some point. Um, I think it's a solid movie. Like I think it is of the latter day Disney animated films, it is probably in the top half of them, I think.
I Moana is for a good year, like right up until night. It became Nightmare Before Christmas. I've probably seen Moana minimum 100 times, and
Wow.
I am so into Moana now. I'm watching Moana, and I'm like with a stopwatch and be like, oh my gosh, look, like she gets the heart of Tafiti from Grandma Tala at the exact same point that Luke's aunt and uncle, or yeah, aunt and uncle get burned by the stormtroopers, and Obi-Wan gives the lightsaber. I'm like, I am. Look, if anybody ever wants to open a Moana bar and needs a Moana expert, I'm probably like right in line to do that job too.
Yeah. No, I mean I've gone deep on other movies. Moana probably has gotten, 10 or 12 spins in my house. Definitely not in the hundreds. And I'm also okay with that. Um, but yeah, Moana 2, and then after that, Mufasa, the Lion King prequel, is also going to kind of just swallow December in a big bad way. Um,
You know what though, with that one, I don't know. I don't know. Um, like, do I want to like Scar? Do I want to look at Scar like he's just misunderstood when I watch Lion King? Like, isn't it better that sometimes a bad guy is just born bad?
yeah, I mean it's the Mufasa and Wicked are very similar in those ways, which is let's humanize and sympathize for the villain of a very popular narrative. Um, and it's the sort of the prequel trap of like, is the first story of these characters really more interesting than the story we already got? Um, I have yet to watch Dune Prophecy, except it's on my DVR, waiting for me to bend my attention to it. But I'm like, do I really need to see the story that started 10,000 years ago about the Bene Gesserits trying to start a breeding program to potentially maybe possibly create the super being? I know they do it because I saw the movies where they do it. So now it's like just the 10,000-year run up to them doing it. Like House of Dragon, interesting. I get it. But I know what happens, you know. Not to
Yeah.
say that you can't tell an interesting story before the story you know, but also, eh,
Yeah. You know what's wild about House of the Dragon is Jen never watched Game of Thrones. She's never watched. She got to the point, she watched the first episode and said, I have no idea what Game of Thrones is. Her mom watched Game of Thrones and fell in love with it. And so when House of the Dragon came out, we watched it with her mom over Christmas or whenever it was. And Jen just, she went so hard into House of the Dragon, like the way that the rest of the world did with Game of Thrones in like 2008. And she's like chomping at the bit now for House of the Dragon. And I was like, this is like a quarter of what Game of Thrones was. She's like, what are they gonna do? And the dragon comes out, and so I guess maybe it's the order you watch it in.
I mean, yeah, like she then now gets the joy of, hey, I now have 7 seasons of Game of Thrones to get into after this show ends. So I get it. It's Breaking Bad, right? Like, and Better Call Saul. Like, if you're like, I've never seen either of them. If I'm going to start watching them, I'm going to start with Better Call Saul and just roll all the way through into one chronological story. Um, but I think Better Call Saul is probably one of the few prequels that earns its stripes, as I've heard. But my experience with prequels has never been strong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Andor, right? Somebody in chat, Wesley
Yeah.
Ferguson said Andor. I feel like Andor's on par, you
I mean,
know.
Andor, Rogue One are like the exceptions that prove the rule, but like the other prequels to Star Wars, I don't love.
Yeah,
Star Wars, I think, was at least my generation's first real exposure to prequels of like, oh, we're gonna do the story before the story? All right, let's see what happens.
I mean, what was the first prequel? Like, I know Temple of Doom is a prequel to Raiders. Was
Mhm.
there anything before that?
Um, I mean, I don't know that much about the Shakespearean extended universe, but it would not surprise me if like some of those stories
Mm,
kind of jump around history a little bit. Like, when does Othello versus the Tempest versus Romeo and Juliet, like, are they in a chronology that makes some sense? Um, you know, I think that you could probably figure that one of the Planet of the Apes movies, if
mm,
not directly a prequel, at least like Escape from the Planet of the Apes goes back in time. So it's still and Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is definitely a thing that takes place before the other movies that you saw. So I guess it qualifies as a prequel. I'm not sure if there's something deeper because sequels were not that big of a deal back in
yeah.
the day, let alone prequels. Like, you know what? Let's go to the pre-Forbidden Planet. Um, you know,
Let's go to Amity Island when there are no sharks. Just it's a rom com.
I would 100% pitch like the ABC late night soap version of Amity Island. Just a bunch of people in the 70s just fucking having orgies and sex parties and like, man, it'd be great. It's just something would break up the monotony of sleeping with everybody else's wives. And then just a shark fin on the water.
It's like the after credit scene.
Yeah.
It's the party that the girl is at before she goes to the beach party.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I know where this is going.
Anybody
Or
want to go
it's
skiing?
yeah, it's like the little boy's birthday party that the week before.
um, so yeah, I grow weary of prequels. Occasionally they're interesting, or pre-boots. I think Casino Royale, the James Bond movie, is like kind of a prequel, just kind of a reboot, still in continuity, but the first James Bond adventure is what that's supposed to be. Um, but so yeah, like Gladiator 2, interesting, sure. Moana 2, I'll probably watch it. Mufasa, I'm only interested literally because it's a Barry Jenkins movie.
Oh yeah.
And how exactly Barry Jenkins got involved with making a prequel to The Lion King feels like a story worth telling, but that dude knows what he's doing. So I'm curious about what that feels like.
I mean, Barry, for the Kevin Smith fans in the audience, if there are any. Um, I believe, and I'll have to look up and make sure Mufasa is this, but Barry Jenkins' last handful of things, everything since Moonlight, I believe, has been John Laxton, who shot Tusk and Yoga Hosers for Kevin.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got to cut their teeth somewhere.
So if you
And
guys like Mufasa, go back and check out Tusk. Same
yes,
idea.
look at the work. Look at what he's doing. I saw Red One,
Oh
the
yeah.
Wayne Johnson, Chris Evans, J.K. Simmons kidnapping of Santa Claus movie. Um, I did not have high expectations going into it. I mean, the trailers look silly and they look whatever. Like it's a Christmas movie. It's Jingle All the Way for the 21st century. Um, I had a decent time at it, man. Like it. The thing that I found interesting was the ways in which people can embroider that mythology. The here's Santa Claus, here's the sleigh, here's the North Pole, here's the ways this job gets done. And this was a relatively novel version of the workshop of the North Pole, what Santa has to do, his own occasional crises of faith in his own mission. Um, I am sort of a sucker for a how do you make the mythological thing feel like the real world? Um, and it does a pretty decent job of inventing the path for that. Some of it's silly. I mean, it is at its core a kids movie, and so again, it never pejorative at kids movies, but it's not taking itself terribly seriously. The tonal swings are kind of a little all over the place. Chris Evans is doing the biggest like New Jersey accent I've ever heard. Um, and J.K. Simmons as Santa Claus is like, yeah, all right, cool. Jack Santa, here for it.
He did Santa Claus in the voice in Klaus. Did he not? Am I right
I
on
believe
that?
he did. I believe he
Or,
did, which I love that movie.
that is a yeah. That's like one of those classic. Will go up on the shelf with like Home Alone forever Christmas
Yeah, like
movies.
and like just stumbled upon it. It was a Netflix original animated movie that got no fucking herald at all. That just kind of showed up on the service that I just I was like trimming the tree one year and I was like, oh fucking class, I've heard this is decent. And it's so good.
Are
It's so
you are you a sucker for a good Christmas movie or a fun Christmas movie?
I kind of am not.
Oh,
Like
really?
yeah, like because so many of them have the exact same beats. And I'm not pummeled by them because my wife loves a good Hallmark Christmas movie. And so now there's 400 of them on the air and have been for the last month and will be up until like February when it switches over to Valentine's Day. And so I've seen every permutation of like this shitty romance, meet cute Christmas. I'm a girl from the big city who goes back to her small hometown and falls in love with a lumberjack who wants to open a lumberjack store but has no financing. But she knows how to do that because she works on Wall Street, but has never found somebody to love her. And so there's a big dance back at the high school that they both went to, and her ex-boyfriend is there, and and his ex-wife is there, and he's got a kid. But all of it, I've seen every version of it. Um, I appreciate what I appreciate in them is like when Elf works for me, and I've seen Elf 400 times, is the father son story. It is less the Christmas of it and more the dad who cannot get through to his kid and the kid who cannot reach his dad. And Christmas and Buddy the Elf is the bridge to solve that
Mm-hmm.
problem. It did not need to be a Christmas movie. The fact that it is cute. But again, it's one of those we're taking the things you know about Christmas and we're finding new ways to tell you that same old story. Like, how does the sleigh fly? It flies on the goodwill of all. It flies on the power of good cheer, of belief. Great, awesome, love it. But I don't need every version of a Christmas version of other things. I never needed Christmas Vacation. Never really liked that movie. Um,
Oh.
you know, Die Hard is my Christmas movie if I have to pick a Christmas movie.
Did you ever see Love Hard, which is Nina Dobrev and
No.
uh, who's the other guy? Comedian of uh, Asian descent. Uh, oh, I can't pull his name.
Randall Park?
I did a Miller Lite commercial with him once, and I can't pull his name. Uh, it's on Netflix. It is literally the Christmas movie version of like a Hallmark Die Hard, where they like meet up or whatever. I think she's like getting catfish. I can't even remember, but it was called Love Hard, and they come together because they both love that their favorite movies Die Hard as a Christmas movie or whatever.
Adorable.
Oh
They're
yeah,
all adorable.
Jimmy Yang,
Jimmy, yeah,
Jimmy O Yang.
gotcha. Um, so yeah, like listen, like Red One is not doing extraordinarily well in theaters. It's an Amazon movie. I think they spent something like $200 million to make it. It made 30 its opening weekend. I think it'll probably clear 100, 120 international all in. It also kind of doesn't matter because Christmas movies are like Christmas albums in that like, you know what? I will never listen to Michael Bublé except for those three songs on a Christmas album that are pretty good. Like if you can cut a decent one, the replay value is immense.
I mean, Mariah, I think I looked up, makes like $3 million every year uh between Thanksgiving and New Year's just off that one album.
Yeah. Like if you could cut
What?
one good Christmas song, like it'll pay for everything for the rest of your life if you
Mm-hmm.
live within a certain amount of means. And so the idea that like, yes, Amazon and MGM will take a bit of a bath on theatrical on Red One. They'll put it up on the service in time for Christmas. It'll do gangbusters business on streaming this Christmas. Next Christmas, they'll release it to syndication, so it'll be on USA or TNT or whatever, and it'll play there every year for the rest of time.
Yeah.
Um, and those movies, like, it does not require, the barrier of quality is not that high. So it's like, listen, that was fun, that was cute. It's a story about a dad who can't get through to his kid, because they're all kind of that kind of movie, or a mother can't get through to their daughter. It's a parent-child sort of estrangement story, and Santa Claus slash Santa Claus number one body man is the way how you bring those two people together. Um, so yeah, man, like, I've definitely seen worse movies. Um, the last thing that I saw was The Penguin. I finally finished season one, apparently, of The Penguin. Um, I was a little, I think we talked about it, a couple of weeks ago or a couple of episodes ago with Kev, that, like, yeah, it felt really good as just a post Sopranos. Like, if you like mob shows, it's a pretty decent version of a mob show. Um, Even if there's no convincing, compelling reason why it needed to be Colin Farrell in a fat suit. Um, they just that was their Penguin choice, and they stuck with it, because that character could also have been thin and just had a limp and a scar, and he still would have gotten Penguin. Um, it eventually became the Kristen Milioti show, and that character, Sophia Falcone, is extraordinary, and her performance is astounding. And the more you dig into her story, the more it becomes her show, the more the show invests itself in both that actress and that character. Um, it becomes something different and something super, super interesting. I mean, Colin Farrell's never bad. The show, it's produced within an inch of its life. It looks great. Um, its glances against the Batman mythos are never overwhelming, but they do sort of amplify and clarify some stuff. Um, it ends well, in that, Penguin gets, kind of, to a certain degree, everything that he wanted, um, except he didn't get what he needed, which is kind of where you want to leave a character at the end of a season. A sense of completion and accomplishment, but also there's still a gaping wound that is not closed, that he doesn't know how to fix.
You may have
Um,
just sold me on watching The Penguin.
I mean, the first couple of episodes are like, yeah, it's familiar in ways that are not necessarily great, but it makes some really bold choices, and it takes some really interesting turns towards the end, towards the middle and the end. Like episode four, I think, is the one that shifts it, and then it just leans into it going forward. Um, but yeah, really strong,
All right.
really
Do
strong.
you before we hit news, you want to hit
Yeah,
Mendo?
let's take them down. Where are we gonna go first? Uh,
Mendo.
Mando, welcome to the bomb, Mando, Mando. Um, okay, I love it when they send copy that seems potentially not quite in line with our audience, but so let's run with it, guys. Um, hey, it's football season. Time for tailgates, touchdown, and Sunday cookouts with the crew. You know, sport ball with you and your friends. I suppose we could probably even just replace football with, like, it's D&D season. It's time for appetizers and bowls of chips and
It's
Sunday
con
tight meal.
season. Get
Yeah,
ready. Sci-Fi Expo San Francisco. Mando is your sidekick.
it's all happening. Um, Listen, Mando is clinically proven 72-hour odor control. So it's perfect for long days at the tables, in the game, in the bar, at a con floor. It's safe for the whole body, pits, package, feet, and everywhere in between. Yes, even after those quote unquote tailgate sprints to the restroom. It stops odor before it starts. It's available in three formats. You get an invisible spray, a solid stick, and an invisible cream. It feels like it should be delivered to you in an invisible jet. Lots of the uses of the word invisible. Comes in four cologne quality scents. You get bourbon leather, which, ooh, sounds good. Mount Fuji, and Clover Woods, which maybe might be haunted. Um, I personally, when they sent me my package of Mando, I found myself kind of taken by the Mount Fuji. Um, it feels what I feel like a sumo wrestler would use in between bouts. There was a freshness to it, but also a bit of a musk to it. But it did make me feel a bit robust. Um, so hey, listen, special offer: our new customers will get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code and link. So use the code FATMAN at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. And again, like, listen, it's created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. The Mando whole body deodorant is powerful enough to get the toughest body odor, but gentle enough to use everywhere, allowing you to put Mando on family jewels without any worry. Because Mando is aluminum free, baking soda free, cruelty free, dye free, and vegan for the Kevs in the world. Um, so listen, Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers or to secure some last minute stocking stuffers. Comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, two free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. So again, we have the discount code to help you get hooked on our favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. So new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code that equates to like 40% off your starter pack. So use FATMAN at shopmando.com. That's FATMAN is the code. SHOPMANDO.com is the site. So please support our show and tell them we sent you. Don't let BO keep you on the bench or in the stockades or in the detention cells. Smell better naked with Mando. And we are also going to roll straight in to our final ad of the evening. Tushy, 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 tushy. Yes, listen, is it selfish or brilliantly anti-capitalist to gift your true love something that also benefits you? Like when it's a bidet, everybody wins, baby, because the gift of a clean booty keeps giving for life. And why drop two or three Benjamins on a cooler that'll get used some of the time when you can spend a fraction of the cost on a bidet your whole household will use all of the time? I got a bidet, just after the pandemic. I wish I had it during the pandemic. I could have saved a boatload on toilet paper. Um, Kevin swears by it. And yeah, if you want to get like a gentle kiss on your tuchus, Tushy's the way to get that done. Right now, Tushy Bidet is dropping deep discounts on bidet life essentials that'll transform your bathroom habits and butt for life. And now's the time to back away from boring gifts and dirty habits to save on a luxury lifestyle upgrade you'll use every day. So visit Tushy.com to see this week's savings on bidets, bundles, and instant bathroom upgrades. And it washes you with a precise stream of water, removes 99% of bacteria compared to wiping with toilet paper. Installation is simple, takes like 10 minutes to complete. Anybody can do it. Trust me, you do not want me dealing with anybody's plumbing, let alone mine. Didn't hurt at all to put that in myself. Easy to use. Sit down, do your business, and turn on the knob and just fucking get into it, man. And once you're done, just pat dry with toilet paper. You ain't got to wipe, you just got to dab, son. Every Hello Tushy bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return and a 12-month warranty. So give the gift of practical luxury that benefits everyone in your household. Go to hellotushy.com/fatman now to grab your deal before it's gone. And don't forget to give us a shout while you're there and let them know we sent you. That's hellotushy.com/fatman for the best holiday gift this holiday season. A cleaner, safer, kissable ass. Tushy. Do it. Do it. All right. I think we've done all the things we need to do. Let's hit
Yes.
some news real quick. The first item being the one that, again, we brought Star Wars expert here to talk about is that Lucasfilm, the people who make the Star Wars, are launching a new Star Wars trilogy with Simon Kinberg. Now, if you're not familiar with Simon Kinberg, he was instrumental in all, if not most, of the X-Men movies. He produced The Martian. He co-created Star Wars Rebels with Dave Filoni as well as Carrie Beck. Show was Emmy nominated, ran for 4 seasons from 2014 to 2018. He also helped as a consultant on The Force Awakens, so he was part of the relaunch of Star Wars for Disney. Um, he's the producer on Logan, the first two Deadpool movies. He's about to go into production with Edgar Wright on The Running Man for Paramount, and now he's doing Star Wars. Now he's doing Star Wars. Apparently, this new story is not meant to be a continuation of the Skywalker saga. The name of, we know what that is. The intent here is to have brand new characters in a new story and not have it be a continuation, according to the Hollywood Reporter, at any rate. Though that does not mean that some characters could not or would not pop up. Um, I don't know what this means for. There was a long gestating Rey film in the hopper at Lucasfilm. There's also a High Republic film that I think they're working on. Taika Waititi is apparently still making a Star Wars movie. Rogue Squadron is also not a dead concern as it might have seemed a couple of years back. Um, so it's unclear what this is going to be. Um, but I'm curious. What do you think, Jason?
Uh, I mean, Star Wars Rebels. I didn't love the beginning of Star Wars Rebels. Um, and somebody told me, Sam Witwer, voice of Darth Maul in Clone Wars, was like, "You have to watch Star Wars Rebels," and I reluctantly did because he pushed me on it, and it's great. It's really really good Star Wars storytelling, and of course it's episodic and it's starts kind of you know more kid like, but it really gets into it and does some really cool things leading up to into Rogue One and stuff that now connects to Ahsoka and all of that was set up in Rebels, and and so to me, look, uh, oh gosh, I gotta be careful. Look, it sounds like there's a little bit of a plan, which is more than we had last time. So I'm going to allow myself to be excited.
Right.
A plan. There was somebody I was talking to who I cannot reveal, who said to me, like, Simon Kinberg is going to be the new George Lucas of Star Wars. And that's exciting because it's like, I feel like they said J.J. Abrams is going to be that, but then he wasn't quite that. And I think it'll be good to have somebody up there that is tasked with, you know, uh, doing the thing. And I know Dave Filoni kind of oversees everything and all of that, but like actually like boots on the ground where it's like Dave Filoni's overseeing an empire, you know, if Simon Kinberg is the top general there, and I know like people are like the X-Men movie sucked. In the year 2000, the X-Men movie was awesome, and X2 was also awesome 2 years later. So then there's that third thing that happened. Um, so I'm gonna allow myself to be excited about it. I think it's a good move. I think it'll probably more likely to happen than the 9 million other movies they announced with 9 million other people. Game of Thrones is popular. We gave them a movie. This thing's popular. Wonder Woman's popular. We gave them a movie. I think the Kinberg project will probably happen. And Kinberg's worked with Dave Filoni for longer than 4 years, because it takes so long to get into animation. Rebels started in 2014, 10 years ago. So that means they probably started working on that show in 2012.
Yeah.
So, if he has a 6-year relationship with Dave Filoni, they're going to have a Star Wars shorthand. They're going to have a way to get into it that I think will benefit the audience.
I mean, like my feeling is always have a plan. And it seemed like much of the last decade of Star Wars has not been necessarily a plan. Um, it's yielded some interesting things. It's, you know, there have been some things that I'm glad they said no to, like Rebel Moon would have been a disaster as a Star Wars movie, let alone two Star Wars movies. So I'm glad that, like, for any decisions that Kathy has made in the affirmative that we don't love, that is the biggest one we know that she said no to. Um, I'm sure there are others that nobody will ever hear about that she turned down, and walked away from. But having somebody, to your point, whose job isn't to oversee everything, but just to do this, who's also very good at doing this, I think is a strong, strong idea. Um, but I remember there's an interview with Matthew Vaughn, the guy who made the Kingsman movies, who said he met with Lucasfilm about potentially coming on to do Star Wars because he, like every filmmaker of his generation and most generations, has a feeling about Star Wars. And I think his quote was something to the extent of, I I I recommended to Kathy and to Lucasfilm that they consider rebooting everything. That the thing people love about Star Wars is Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia and Han Solo and Darth Vader. And the further you get from those, like, yeah, you can 100% keep telling stories, but Luke Skywalker is the sun of this particular solar system. And when you run out of stories to tell about him, as they've exhausted almost every part of his life, and the way Star Wars works is every story is canon, and they don't retell anything. And so we've had now almost 50 years of Luke Skywalker stories. Um, you start living in the periphery. Sometimes those are super interesting, but they are never going to replicate the feeling of Star Wars. And so at some point, you will have to consider starting over. And I don't believe anybody at Lucasfilm wanted to entertain that thought, like wanted to even give it oxygen, because it would go against everything that they've been building for 40 years. Like, there's canon, there's extended universe, there's legends, there's all of it, but like,
I'm trying to remember when it was. Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con 2013 or 14. Right after, it was the Comic-Con after Disney bought Star Wars. And I was in the Lucas Del Rey book panel. And the heads of Del Rey and Star Wars and Timothy Zahn, who like basically invented Grand Admiral Thrawn and Mara Jade and like brought Star Wars novels into the fray again in 1991 with Heir to the Empire, was sitting on the panel. And I got up and I asked a question. And my question was, Timothy Zahn, you started this thing, whatever it was at that point, 25 years ago. You're still writing books, but there's been 1,000 books written. I was like, is it time we just reboot? It was before they announced that the old stuff was becoming legends and was no longer canon. I was like, is it time we reboot like the Star Wars expanded universe? And people threw shit at me in that room. People threatened me on my way out the door. They were so mad because I was like, oh, they're rebooting DC. They reboot comics all the time. Like, start renumbering. I was like, isn't it time to do that with Star Wars? I said, how do you even write anymore when it's like every minute of Luke Skywalker's day from the time he was 18 years old until now has been cataloged? Oh my gosh. The rage that would happen. Those were books. That was like the subset of Star Wars fans. And I thought I was going to get murdered. If they were to announce that for the movies,
yeah.
Remember in the 80s when people would like burn their like records? Like
Mm-hmm.
burn the Nirvana record or burn the Motley Crue record. I feel like there'd be like bonfires around the world of people burning their Star Wars toys.
I mean, like, and I understand it in that in a world of fandom, Star Wars has been the constant. Um, in that it has always stuck to its guns of like this is and always has been and always will be what Star Wars is. Um, but you're going to go a generation at some point without there having been an actual actor playing Luke Skywalker on screen at some point. It will only exist in the past. And so it's again, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, and I do believe it to my soul in that characters need reinterpretation to achieve immortality. You know, you never thought you'd get another Captain Kirk. You got another Captain Kirk. You got two more Captain Kirks. You know, we know what it's like to reboot a Bond or a Batman or whatever. We're going to see another Indiana Jones at some point that's not Harrison Ford because again, you don't buy if you're Disney, you don't buy Lucasfilm and then leave one of its giant shiny pieces of IP on the shelf because the actor who played it is a little too old. You know, there's going to be another one. There's always going to be another one. So embracing that and finding the path forward in that, like, yeah, you're going to see another Luke Skywalker at some point. Or more to the point, your kids will see another Luke Skywalker. Whether it's you're hiring another actor to play Luke Skywalker or whether it's guys, we're going back to the beginning again. Like we've been knitting with the same thread for so long that we can see through the cloth at this point. And so we just need a hard reset to get to do it all over again, to get to make the money all over again is the corporate interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think corporate at some point will meet with creativity and drive a refreshing of all of this stuff. Um, Maybe not in the next 10 years, maybe not in the next 20 years. Maybe I won't be alive to see it, but it'll happen because it always happens and it has to happen. I'm sure Arthur Conan Doyle was like, hey, so you hired this Basil Rathbone guy to play Sherlock Holmes, right? He's the only one we're ever going to do, the only one that's ever going to be until 100 actors have played Sherlock Holmes over the last 100 years. It
Yeah,
is it
or
just
Bond, right?
or
Who
Bond or
who's your
yeah,
favorite Bond is a litmus test if like we're gonna be friends or not sometimes, you know?
yeah. We know what it's like as an audience that ingests stuff to survive a mantle shift, and so to assume that it's impossible that an audience won't buy it um, doesn't feel realistic given the reams of data that you have to say like yeah they were cool with other Batmans, they were cool with shitty Batmans to get to some good Batmans, they were cool with shitty Bonds to get to some good Bonds. Like you don't want to do it a lot, I don't think, but yeah.
Well, and again, like Batman, like nobody watches Batman and Robin anymore, but nobody's like, well, the Justice League Batman fucking sucks because George Clooney did that thing 20 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. It's an inevitability. So in the same way that like, yeah, at some point, somebody else is going to play Steve Rogers. Somebody else is going to play Tony Stark. Um, like sure, they're 100% bringing back Robert Downey Jr. because that's money in the bank if you want to have it. But at some point, he'll be too old for it. But they'll never stop telling Marvel stories, and
Mm-hmm.
so they'll get a new one. And not just one that fits the void of guy who wears armor. Ironheart will be that. If you've got like I wanted to hear repulsors go off a lot, then the Ironheart's coming in the new year. So you'll get to hear that again. But Tony Stark, yeah, you'll get another one of those.
Yeah.
Um,
The only thing that will never be sequelized is Back to the Future. Beyond what it is kind of what it sounds like.
yeah, I mean, that too feels like at some point, all of those people will die,
And
and
then their kids
Universal
are going to be like, how do I buy my house?
yeah, it'll be like, hey, there's a generation that doesn't know this. How can we continue the legacy of Marty McFly? You know, Guy who had access to time machine who only went to three times seems like, oh, I mean, there's a lot of runway here for more story in with Marty McFly and Doc Brown. You just need new people to do it. You know, there's a compelling creative reason to tell that story. That like, yeah, 100%. Spielberg doesn't want it. Zemeckis doesn't want it. Michael J. Fox doesn't want it. Um, and so it'll sit for decades. But at some point, Universal will put a fire under that again and be like, you know what? We can take another go at this. Just
And
get
at that
added.
and at that point they will replace the Simpsons roller coaster ride at Universal theme parks with a DeLorean ride again. And we'll
Um,
we'll be
yeah,
there. We'll be right back to where we started.
right back to where we started. I mean, listen, Lucasfilm clearly has no plans to do this. They're actively resisting it and probably will for a quarter century. But at some point, all things must pass, and this feels like one of them. But hey, and Simon Kinberg is not going to be hand tasked with rebooting the Star Wars universe either. He's just going to make 3 more movies, and so fingers crossed that they're good.
Yeah,
I always make good Star Wars. Um, I have been accustomed to expecting lesser in my taste, but I always hope that the next one is going to be the one that rekindles it.
yeah.
I'm very curious about Skeleton Crew. Like I'm not sure how much like kiddie Star Wars I want, but if it's just fucking Goonies, if it's a romp, if it's Jude Law as the guidance counselor for a bunch of reckless kids who has his own mysterious past, cool, cool. I hope it's good. I always hope they're good. And so with this one, I continue to live in hope. Um, Moving on because we're gonna blaze through some news because I got to bounce in like 10 minutes, as does JC. So no Q&A tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He, she's, theys, and thems. We'll wait till we get Kev back. Hopefully next week. Hopefully maybe we can do like a post Thanksgiving
Yeah.
and give some thanks to the things that made us happy this year. But apparently Daniel Craig is going to play Sergeant Rock. Um, which like, and the director Luca Guadagnino, who did this new movie called Queer. Um, he also did Call Me by Your Name. Um, are making a Sergeant Rock movie. James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC Studios have reached out. Um, it's like what? It seems so weird and so out of left field that it's gotten me so much more curious about what this particular teaming is going to do with Sergeant Rock. Um, but hey, like again, the fact that it seems so weird, it makes me more. It's the Barry Jenkins is making a Mufasa animated movie. Okay,
Or why is the weird dude James Gunn who did Scooby Doo making some crappy movie like Guardians of the Galaxy? Why is
yeah.
Marvel going there? Oh,
Oh, every now and again, just like the talent lines up and people have a feeling and a thought and like a slightly sideways way into something that can yield gold. At the very least, it will not be boring, I don't think. It'll have weird, interesting things on the fringes that I'm 100% here for. Um, so yeah, and I have 2 Game of Thrones related news items that hopefully will make Jen very happy as she crests out of House of the Dragon and into the mothership. Sophie Turner, the actress who played Sansa Stark, is in negotiations to star as Lara Croft in Tomb
hmm.
Raider. Um, the sort of Amazon Prime's video, like the super high profile adaptation of the video game series that Phoebe Waller-Bridge of the Fleabag fame and co-star of the most recent Indiana Jones movie has been developing for Amazon. Um, Dope, I guess. The problem with Lara Croft is she's kind of barely a character. She's like, I run and I jump and I solve puzzles as I raid tombs. I'm hoping that Phoebe Waller-Bridge has come in and given that character some real heft and some real depth and a reason why we should be watching her do the things that she does more than just like I wear 2 guns cool and I wear short shorts and a tight shirt. So yes, here for that, interested in that, waiting for that. The last one is that Warner Brothers apparently is quietly developing at least one film set in the Game of Thrones universe.
Oh,
Um,
I saw that.
yeah, there's no filmmaker cast or writer attached yet, but the company is very interested in exploring Westeros on the big screen. Um, the certain selected episodes of the TV show did get theatrical runs, small ones, like not big ones, but it was still like enough to actually bring in extra money. And it seems again in the same way that like a TV series on Disney Plus got downshifted or upshifted into a movie because now you can suddenly make $200 million on a movie that you could not have made on streaming. The fact that, like, yes, HBO does very well in subscribers for when Game of Thrones is on their network or on Max or whatever it is, but couldn't you also get $300 million in the box office if you came up with the right Game of Thrones movie? You probably could. And so in the annals of duh, this seems like it's a thing that was bound to happen at some point, and so it is fascinating that it's happening now, or at the very least they're exploring it. Um, which again, like if you can make it good, if you have a compelling story to tell, maybe this is the Jon Snow show turned into a movie that they could not
No.
call a TV show. Um, because again, if you're going to spend this money and take this shot, I feel like you want to do it on a somewhat familiar character, you know
Yeah.
and so the Jon Snow story, the continuing adventures of Arya Stark, is there a version of a team up between the both of them, but continuing that story forward rather than choosing another tale on the periphery or a prequel feels like the clearest path to a slam dunk is to like do what people want you to do, but do it good. Give me more.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be doing anything with Marvel very soon. Jon Snow. So.
Yeah, does not seem as if the Black Knight is returning to do very much. But hey, who the hell knows who's going to be in these two Avengers movies that they're making? Um, Anything is possible. But the Eternals does not seem like a world that they want to revisit anytime soon.
Yeah. Uh,
What
I got one. I got one news.
you
One
got?
news. You're a big Lord of the Rings fan. Are
I
you
am
gonna go
indeed.
see War of the Rohirrim?
Ooh, I'm curious.
Uh, Animated movie apparently ties into Peter Jackson's whole thing. Takes place many years before.
Is it a
It
prequel?
is a prequel. If you're on the fence, does this change your mind?
Hmm,
Have you seen this?
I have.
It
I
is a. It's 27 inches.
I mean, it's as if nobody designing popcorn buckets for collectible use has ever been to like a modern day football game where they have to give you beer and take the bottle caps from you so you don't hurl it at people. Like, I'm giving you a mallet that you can fill with whatever in a theater. Like,
Yeah.
that seems like an awful idea.
It's also like movie theater seats. I mean, maybe the big recliners, but a normal movie theater seat isn't 27 inches arm to arm. So if the popcorn is in your lap, the point of that bucket, the tip, is 2 seats over.
Yeah. Or impaling the person right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Either way, ill advised at best.
There's a drinking stein that goes with it too. I don't. We jumped the shark. Everybody
Yeah.
was like Deadpool Wolverine's like blowjob bucket jumped the shark. This is jumping. This isn't even functional
Yeah.
in
Like,
any way.
I can't do the thing I'm supposed to do with this.
Yeah,
I now just bought it to take it home, in a car that might not be big enough to contain
yeah, yeah.
a popcorn bucket mallet.
Uh, yeah.
Oh,
That was my one. I was just like, oh my god, what are they
well
doing?
done, Warner Brothers. Way to reach for the stars.
That's at AMC if you're looking to get it.
Oh, hot damn. I mean, I'm curious, although it is one of those like the trailers for War of the Rohirrim start as live action footage from Lord of the Rings, and then fade into animated footage. Like, hey, remember the thing that you like? Hey, look, here's Viggo Mortensen, and here's Orlando Bloom, and here's yeah, none of them are in this. But we're
Yeah.
reminding you of the thing that you loved once.
Yep.
You know, it's like the trailers for Doom Prophecy were all like 10,000 years before Paul Atreides took the throne, 10,000 years before Arrakis fell into the hands of the blah blah blah. This shit happened.
And you're like, I don't care. I don't
Like,
care. It's like the acolyte. Nobody cares.
yeah, like is there a Skywalker in here anywhere? Am I gonna see a no? No?
Does
All right.
Vigo ride a horse? Is there a hobbit with big feet that loves the
Yeah.
other hobbit, but they don't talk about it? Like, no, then I'm not.
No, no, actually no hobbits at all. We're just dealing with Rohan. Oh, okay. All right. If you say so.
I'm
Um,
still gonna go watch it. It's
I
probably
mean, yeah,
good.
yeah. I mean, I'm the fact that it is again Peter Jackson returning to, I don't know how much he had to do with this, but his name is all over it, and
Yeah.
so clearly there was at the very least he gave some notes on something. Um, and even though I don't love the Hobbit movies, there's parts of it that still feel like Middle Earth, and specifically Peter Jackson's Middle Earth. It's like, yeah, I mean, these aren't those, but they're not nothing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not the full steak, but it's a bite.
It's a bite. Like, is it the best pizza I've ever had? No. But is it pizza? Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go, if you're in the
Yeah.
Los Angeles area and you like League of Legends
Mm.
or Arcane on Netflix, tomorrow at 2 p.m., uh, between 2 and 6, we are going to be partnering with Screen Rant to
Ooh.
show the finale of Arcane. And then the composer for Arcane is going to be in the bar doing a Q&A, and then he's going to do a DJ set.
What?
Yeah, so we're going to do a League of Legends Arcane DJ set in conjunction with Screen Rant tomorrow at 2 p.m. So if any of that sounds cool to you, come on down to Scum and Villainy. If you're not in LA, buy a plane ticket, fly in, come to Scum and Villainy tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
I am never not amazed at all the cool shit happening in that bar that I never know about until it's too late. And I'm also an old man who probably wouldn't go anyway, but I'm always somewhat regretful of the like, oh man, that's cool. Oh man, that'd have been dope. Oh yeah, but it's a Saturday and I'm already in my fluffies, so I'm not leaving.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to get me out of the house. I will be there tomorrow also. Um, if you're like, I don't love Arcane, but JC seems okay, I'll be there during the event.
I'm gonna hang out
Um,
with him. Yeah, he's cool.
Also, I mentioned earlier that the lease is up at Scum and Villainy Hollywood the same day my daughter is due to be born. Somebody was like, "What? Are you closing?" I can't talk much about it. We're not closing. We've got big things in the works. Marc knows, but
They're up
we're not
and
closing. We're not. You're not losing out on your chance to go to Scum and Villainy yet. There's lots of things in the works that hopefully I can talk about in a month or so.
things are moving in the night. Plans within plans are all happening here. Wah. Um, but I'm so excited for these plans that he can't tell you about. It's gonna be the coolest. So yes, hie thee to an aircraft ticketry and get yourself to Los Angeles, my friends. Enjoy yourselves. I've lost my mind. Clearly, it's been an hour and a half, and I don't know how I did like a 4 hour version of just a solo pod musical.
I the wild thing was, did anybody watch that? I wasn't even there. In 4.5 hours, I maybe said like 3 sentences. So it wasn't even like 4.5 hours of like banter. It was like it was a revisit of an evening with or Too Fat for 40 or whatever it was, where he answered one Q&A question. That's what that was.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a terrible thing. Um, it's a thing to behold. It's a power that I do not pretend to. I would just gaze in awe and wonder. But yeah, so I think, gang, that is the end of Fat Man slash Black Man Beyond for this week. Could not have pulled this off without the man in the box beneath me, the great and powerful J.C. Reifenberg, BAMF man in the house.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for not yelling at me in the chat this week too much
Hey,
either.
nice. Oh, we're being sweet today. Um, I'm hoping we can get Kev back next week, maybe for a post Thanksgiving joint, and see what he's been up to in the world. He has been out and about something fierce, including potentially telling the press things he shouldn't say out loud, like "I'm writing a Dogma sequel." Um, I don't know. Jordan will do the yelling that needs to be yelled at to Kevin. I don't need to. I am not my brother's keeper.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
down the box when he's not here. But yes, we will see you as soon as we can see you. Same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com or youtube.com/Kevin Smith. Thank you for hanging out with us. Be good and go do some good. And we'll see you on the other side.
Good night.
Deuces.
This is from the cat. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the AKA Ask Kev Anything. Every saga has a 10-year anniversary, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what happens when Jay and Silent Bob get old. I'm Kevin Smith.